right, so it's one of these videos again. We are here at the computer, and I am going to be breaking down the process for getting the drum sound that you just heard. That's for a song that I wrote with a buddy of mine that we put out under our band name Little Rumor. The song is called Half Light, and it was recorded like a year and a half ago and just came out recently. But I liked the drum sound, and I thought that you might be interested in the process of how it came to be. Now, I'll put the links to the song in the description, so if you want to listen to the song first and then come back so that you have context, that's fine, or you can just skip ahead around in this video. Whatever you want to do, that is up to you. So let's get right into it. Again, you hopefully just heard the drum sound, the raw, and then the processed audio. So let's just start here. I've got this clip that I used. I took this clip during the actual tracking session and just break down, first of all, what sounds I was getting at the source. So you can see I've got this mismatch or this mix match of drums. I'm using the Black Beauty as the snare. You can see that back here I had as an alternate, I had my Acrolite. I want to say I was tracking some other stuff this day too. Again, this was like a year and a half ago, so forgive me if I have a tough time remembering exactly what the process was, but I think I was tracking some other stuff. I've got my DW Santa Monica toms, and then this is a Slingerland. This is a 20-inch. This is a 14 by 20 kick that I was really liking using or really liking recording with, because it just felt like the smaller drum size kind of gives you a more controlled sound and maybe a little bit more flexibility in post. And this room I'm in is one that I've recorded in before and shown you guys before. This is just a large, like almost warehouse like room. It has a really good reverb, and I just like recording in this room for that reason. So mic wise, you can see in the back I've got two of my AKG 414s. You can't see the other one on this side, but they're kind of doing an over the shoulder thing rather than doing traditional overheads. I've got more 414s on the toms themselves here. I don't know what I've got in the bass drum. I would imagine it's a D112 or maybe even a D6. I've got just like a cheap large diaphragm condenser here on the outside of the kick, and then I've got my homemade sub kick. I didn't make it, my dad made it for me, but this is just a sub kick mic. And then I probably have I'm sure that I have my Coles 4038s back in the room, out of frame. You can see I've got a hi-hat mic over here. That's an Octava 012. And then I'm surprised, I feel like I would usually have like a worst microphone in here, but actually looking at the track list, looks like I didn't. So anyways, that was the process. Let's go into the mixing stage here. So let me just let you hear a little bit of the track. I'm gonna put this other earphone in. Okay, so let's get rid of all the plugins and hear more or less what things sounded like dry. I think you're hearing that flamming on the snare because of some of the trigger shenanigans I'm doing, so ignore that, but that's more or less how things sounded dry. So let's just start with the kick, work our way down, and then we'll start building this drum sound. So first of all, we've got the kick in mic. I feel like that was the AKG D112. So time adjust here. Oops, let me bring my plugins up here. So time adjust I just use to get everything phase coherent, so nothing really interesting going on here. Gate, for obvious reasons. I mention this all the time. Gatey weighty is my favorite gate. Also, nothing too crazy happening here. And then some pretty simple EQ moves with the FabFilter Pro Q3. And you might wonder why I'm cutting out so much low end in a bass drum microphone, and that is because I want the three different mics to do three different things. So I actually want my kick in mic to be more mid-range and top end, and all of this low stuff I'm gonna get from the sub kick anyway, so I don't really need it in this microphone. And then this move here is just cutting out some of the cloudiness in the low mids. And then I've got Saturn 2. This is me sort of EQing. What I'm doing is I'm just mildly saturating the top end only, so above 630 hertz. Here's what that sounds like. It makes a big difference, and it really doesn't sound great on its own, but this is something that I kind of learned from Eric Valentine watching his tutorials or his breakdowns of songs that he's mixed, and I was amazed at how unbelievably good his drums sounded, but also how bad each individual microphone sounded sometimes. And this is, I feel like, that sort of thing where this mic on its own really doesn't sound that amazing. But it's really just that little spitty, kind of clicky sound that we're after, and then everything else will be filled in elsewhere. Now, the kick out, this is actually a triggered track. You don't see the trigger here, but this is a sample that I made and probably mixed. This is a Coles 4038 in the same room outside of my DW bass drum. And I probably put some compression on it and maybe a little bit of distortion, but I often will replace my kick out microphone with this. So those two together. And then the sub kick. So the sub kick on its own. If you're watching this on your phone, you're not hearing anything. But in any case, doing the opposite move here where I'm cutting out all the top end. I really just want that subby area. And then I'm really exaggerating that with Bark of Dog. Bark of Dog adds in a particular frequency to whatever source it's on. In this case, it's adding a big boost of 60 hertz. And then I really wanted, because I'm playing the kick fairly quick, I'm not saying it's crazy fast, but because the kicks aren't super slow, there isn't a lot of time for the kick to have this longer envelope. I used a gate at the end to really shut it down and just have it be this quick burst of low end. Okay, 3 of those together. Okay, and then overall, I'm mixing the overall kick sound. I guess, actually doing nothing here. That's odd. And then I'm gating again, just to take care of anything else that didn't get caught. I'm using Lo-Fi, which is one of my favorite stock Pro Tools plugins, adding just a little bit of distortion. We also get some level too. And then Saturn 2, once again. Just adding a little more top end. And that is more or less our kick sound. All right, cool. Moving on to the snare. Oops. So here's the snare on its own. Let's start with the snare top. All right, so this is snare top microphone on its own. Not bad, nothing super inspiring, but I knew that I was going to be going for a slightly more processed sound, or maybe a significantly more processed sound. Sort of my reference was the song Caution by The Killers, which is mixed by Sean Everett, and he is definitely not afraid to process a drum signal. Interestingly, he's got a great sound where it doesn't just sound like he's using samples, because I don't think he is most of the time, but the drum sounds can be heavily, heavily processed sounding. So I knew I was going to end up going in that direction. Anyways, snare bottom. Nothing special, just sounds like a snare bottom. So let's start with the top here. Just a simple gate. A little bit of EQ. I don't know why I made this small move around 2600. This little dip here at 186 just to get rid of some of the just clean up the low mids, cleaning up the low end with a high pass, and then this is probably just a ringing frequency that was annoying me. That must have just been bothering me, especially after it got compressed. So nothing too crazy there. And then the snare bottom, just taking out a bunch of low end. Another gate. And adding in some top end. You can see over here. Just hitting that that CLA high shelf there. Okay, and now here's really where the magic is. Unfortunately, I do have a trigger going on, and this is kind of interesting, actually. This is kind of where the more processed sound is coming from. So first of all, it's this trigger. You can see I've got way down in the mix and detuned a clap sample. And then I've also got this sample pack that I found years and years ago of sound effects of someone like hitting a punching bag, and they make for really good bass drum reinforcements. Or if you just want some like really punchy, no pun intended, low end, I'll add it into snares as well. So that's what's going on here. So without it, with it. Just a really good way to reinforce low end in a snare in particular, which can sometimes be hard. Snares are, I find, easy to get the high end to sound nice, but sometimes really getting that body can be tricky, and this is an easy kind of way to cheat that. Okay, I was using time adjuster here on the overall snare track, excuse me, overall snare track to probably just be in phase with the overheads. That's nothing interesting. I'm using CLA drums, which is kind of what I use if I want a very processed sound. Which again, if I'm trying to have something sound natural, I would never use this. But in this case, I kind of knew that that's the sound I was going for. So you can see all my moves here. This is a plugin that kind of only does one thing. It really makes it sound like one particular thing. But if that's what you're going for, it makes your life way, way easier. Okay, so I'm now triggering the whole thing, and I've got the mix at 60%. So actually what you're hearing, well, you'll hear once I activate this. Okay, very different. Yes, I know that this is doing the bulk of the heavy lifting. So I've got about 40% of what I just showed you in here, and then the rest of the 60% is a combination of these samples. We've got this sample. We've got this sample. This sample. Oh, which I'm not even using. Oh, you know what? This sample actually comes in the choruses, I believe. Hold on. I believe this is an automated move. Hold on. Let's check this. So this is actually one of my samples. This is me sampling the dial tune snare, like a Bell Bronze dial tune, and this sample that I made just sounds super massive. So that comes in the choruses to make the choruses sound bigger, and then I have a bass drum in there as well. So again, same trick, just adding in some low end, and then all together. And then that sample comes in for the choruses just to make it sound a little bit bigger. And then at the very end, this is a move that you could take or leave. This is the J37, and I'm just adding just some crunch. Just make it sound a little bit gnarlier. All right, so we've got kick and snare, moving right along. Overheads. Here's the overheads dry. Again, these are the 414s over my shoulder. Actually sounded really good capture there. But of course I have to screw it up with this EQ. I can't tell you exactly why I made these moves. Again, this was a long time ago. This is obvious, just cleaning up the low end, and then kind of the mid or the low mids that get in the way. Then these moves up here, there must have been something about the high end that was annoying me. Sometimes I'll pull down the high end or some of this like high mid range in my overheads, but then boost the high end overall in the drum track. Sometimes that works better for whatever I'm going for. And you can see this is probably just to kind of catch the crashes. You can see one of these is dynamic, one of these is pulling down a little bit. It's got a compression element to it. That's probably working sort of like a de-esser to catch some of the crashes and the hi-hats that were getting in the way. And then another common overhead move for me, just the combination of the Pultec, the mid-range, and then the high end. I'm just dipping 500 hertz. And then here I am boosting and cutting. I'm boosting at 10K and then cutting at 5K. The idea is to just add a little bit of lift in the top end, add a little bit of brightness without getting it too harsh, having it be too aggressive. All right, so those are the overheads. Really not much happening there. Oh, and then of course, my center, it looks like the center overhead, I was using 3. I forgot. Center, it looks like I was using the ML2, and I was emulating, I don't even know what this is that I was emulating, but I thought this sounded good. Oop. By the way, I'm totally sold on 3 overheads. I know it's a pain in the butt, and yeah, phasing, all of that, but man, I'm all about it. 3 overheads, all the way. Here's without the center. Oops, hold on. Without the center. With. I don't know, maybe it's not that big of a difference, but I still think I'm sold on having 3 overheads. All right, the room mics, the Coles 4038s. My prides and joy. My pride and joys? How would you say that? Anyways, just some cleanup here. Taking off some top end, taking off some low end, scooping out some low mids, and then scooping out just the littlest bit of 1.5K. I feel like there was something in the crashes. Like the crashes, for some reason, had like these big bursts of 1.5K. I think that's what I was trying to mitigate there. CLA drums. Very unusual for me to use on my overheads and rooms, but here we are. Just kind of does its thing, makes it sound a little gnarlier, a little more aggressive. This is H-Comp, and what I'm doing here is I'm compressing a little bit. But mostly what I'm doing here is I'm using this analog circuit 3, which I've talked about before, and this tends to just make drums sound a little more controlled. It's a really interesting emulation. It makes guitars sound way gnarlier, but it makes drums sound more controlled. Really, really interesting. So you can hear it's like a little brighter, a little more real sounding, and when I turn this on, it'll just kind of tuck it back. Interesting. Very crunchy sounding. All right. The toms. Let's see what's going on with the toms here. These were the 414s that you could see. Here's my rack tom. It's the DW rack. That sounds like suspiciously good on its own. So I feel like there's maybe some funny business going on there. Anyways, maybe that's just how it sounded. High and low pass filter, nothing interesting there. A gate, nothing interesting there. CLA drums for that processed sound. Just trying to make it sound like a laser beam. And Saturn 2 to just add a little bit of crunch back into the high end. All right. And then basically doing the same thing with the floor tom. I'll add those all in. Same moves. Then it looks like what I also did with the toms, I can't remember if I actually left this in the final version or not, but I also had a trigger going for just some extra room sound for the toms. Again, I'm not sure if I actually kept that or not. I don't know what this sample is. This is some Stephen Slate sample. But yeah, meant to just kind of reinforce those toms. I don't know. Again, I don't know if I actually kept that in or not. But in any case, moving on to the hi-hat. All right, hi-hat mic. Sounds something like this. Let's get to a section where I'm actually playing the hi-hat. Boy, do I hate the sound of hi-hat mics. I don't know why I have the gate on there. I guess just a lazy way of not having to cut out this section. Yeah. Yeah, there's a gate on there for some reason. Cutting out a ton of low end. And then H-comp to do that same thing. You can see zero compression happening. I'm just trying to tame this signal by using analog circuit 3. The hi-hats are really low in the mix. Here it is with the room and the overheads. Off. Really, really not adding much. Okay, we're kind of coming to the end here. I also have a parallel chain going where I've got, I believe, all of the drums going into this parallel chain, which we're calling drum smash. This is kind of a classic trick. You've got some heavy compression going on, and then that just gets blended in with the original drum signal. Anything else interesting here that I want to mention? There's kind of a cool, like, spacey bridge part here that I made some... I did some commits here. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, but that's sort of the intention. You'll have to listen to the full track. Oh, and all of these, hold on, all of these plugins are off. Let's turn those on so you can hear that again. Again, if you want to hear that in context, you'll have to check out the song. And then I've got some fun little claps here. Oh. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. All right. Going to... Ooh. Mute that. Okay. Going to the overall drum processing. All right, so here's where we're at so far. Okay, it's fine. Got J37, which is, again, just giving a little bit of crunch, a little bit of vibe, if you'll allow me to use that word. Just makes them a little more lively, a little more interesting. Q3D, I love this EQ, just pulling out a little bit of mid-range, some low mids, and then adding in some low lows. You can see I'm also adding a lot of level here, so don't be fooled by that. Got H-comp going. Once again, just trying to sort of tame this. I want this to sound more processed. I don't want it to sound quite as natural. That's an intention here. And then I guess it was just a little too bright. I was just knocking off a little high end, maybe. Oh, no. This is automated. This is for the intro, I believe. Let me double check. I think there's maybe... Yeah, it's not happening here, but anyways, I think that was something that was automated, so don't worry about that. So here's where we're at. And then everything, of course, is going through my master busing. Everything else, this is the rest of the track, and that has all been made inactive. But let me just activate everything on the bus here. And that's what we're left with. So here's, once again, what it sounded like more or less in the room. And interestingly, I mean, I know that this is camera audio and doesn't sound anything like the recorded audio, but as much processing as I did, I feel like I can really hear like this room sound. I guess it's the room sound that's the big identifier here. Like this kind of sounds like what you're hearing in this versus, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching if you've stuck around this whole time. Hopefully some of these tips were helpful for you. Again, you can check out the song in the description. Let me know what you think of that. And if you like this kind of video, I'm happy to do more breakdowns or explain anything that I didn't make clear. So again, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.